With inflation at all-time highs, a popular word that has come up is I-bond. But why all of a sudden? Series I bonds have been around since 1998, yet this is the first time many have even heard of that term. What is this talk all about? What is an I bond? What are the pros? What are the cons? And why should someone use an I bond? There's a lot to consider surrounding Series I bonds. In this video, I'm going to break it all down for you. And for the record, I don't own any I bonds at the moment. Also, before we start, hit that big red button below to subscribe to my page so you can see more videos like this, and it will help out me to continue to put out weekly videos for you every single Monday. There's a reason for every investment and savings tool out there. It makes sense for someone somewhere, but that does not mean it makes sense for you or the masses. And dare I say it, but even whole life insurance makes sense for the 0.001% of people out there. My point is that there are many savings and investment options out there. Make sure you understand what each one is fundamentally, what the purpose of each is, and why it would fit your particular situation before using any of them. In 2022, Series I bonds have gained immense popularity. And while I have known about these ever since my college finance classes, I am certain that 2022 is the only point in time that anybody other than my college professors have actually asked me about them. Since 1935, when President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed legislation creating the first baby bond, the U.S. savings bonds have encouraged savings and a broad participation by Americans in government financing. From the Series E bond that contributed billions of dollars to the World War II financing to today's electronic EE bonds and I bonds, the savings bond program has a rich history of changing to meet the needs of American investors. In the early years, savings bonds were a significant contributor to debt financing, and today they continue to be an important savings and investment tool for individuals. So what exactly is an I bond? A Series I bond is a non-marketable, interest-bearing U.S. government savings bond that earns a combined fixed interest rate and variable inflation rate adjusted semi-annually. Series I bonds are meant to give investors a return plus protection on their purchasing power. The interest rate for Series I bonds consists of two components. The first is a fixed rate which will remain constant over the life of the bond. The second component is a variable rate adjusted every 6 months from the time the bond is purchased based on the current inflation rate. The fixed rate is determined by the Treasury Department. The variable component is based on the non-seasonally adjusted CPI or Consumer Price Index for urban areas for a 6-month period ending 1 month prior to the rate adjustment. Specifically, the variable rate is calculated by looking at the percent change over the previous 6 months of available data and multiplying that percent change by 2. New rates are published on May 1st and November 1st each year. Interest income for Series I bonds is taxable at the federal level, but not at the state and local level. The Series I bond is a zero coupon bond, meaning that no interest is paid during the life of the bond. The interest is instead added back to the value of the bond and earns interest on interest. The bondholder has the option of selecting one of two methods of taxation, the cash method or the accrual method. And as a CPA, I understand these methods pretty well, so under the cash method, tax is only applied when the bonds are redeemed. Therefore, a taxpayer that holds a bond for 7 years before selling it will only be taxed at the time the bond is actually sold. Using the accrual method, on the other hand, taxes on the imputed interest earned are applied every year. Sometimes the Series I bond income is tax-free at the federal level if it's used to pay for higher education. When you sell an I bond and use the proceeds to pay for qualified higher education expenses at eligible institutions in the same calendar year, the interest is exempt from federal income tax. What are the pros? This is a fixed 9.62% rate until at least October 31st of 2022. They reset every May and November. There's a minimum purchase of $25 for electronic bonds and $50 for paper bonds. Assuming you're purchasing electronic bonds because it's 2022, you can buy in $25 denominations in above and penny increments. They're fairly easy to buy through the Treasury Direct website, and I'll provide a link in the show notes below. They're exempt from state tax except for state or inheritance taxes. And their interest earnings may be excluded from federal income tax when used to finance education like we discussed above. Also, it adds potential diversification in someone's portfolio. What are the cons? They're limited to $10,000 per year per individual. They are locked up for 1 year, so you lose liquidity for at least 1 year. So for anyone saying this is an emergency fund option, it's not. Because of this, you need liquidity. You lose the last 3 months of interest if you cash out before 5 years. They're also subject to change every 6 months, and they will follow inflation, so that could go down, meaning your returns would go down as well. Why should someone use an I-bond? According to the Treasury Direct website, which you can purchase from directly, an individual should use the Series I-bond to finance education, supplement retirement income, or give as a gift. And I agree with all of those as legitimate options, and in my opinion, these can be used for short-term, maybe 1 to 5 years, goals, such as a home down payment or a car savings. And if you are a young investor, I personally would prefer buying good quality companies and indexes at their current deflated levels. For example, let's say you buy an S&P 500 index when 20% down from the previous highs. Over time, that will serve as a much better return than an I-bond. Just getting back to previous highs will serve as a better investment. Every investor should consider their goals, risk profile, and time horizons when selecting any investment and savings options, so make sure you're aware of that. And I would assume most people listening to this video are fairly young. If that's the case, I likely wouldn't use this as an investment tool and only use it for the specific reasons I discussed above. Remember, there is a reason for every investment and savings tool out there. However, many times financial products are marketed to everyone when in fact they may not make sense for that individual. And remember, the government is the one you are giving your money to, and that should make you think twice about why these are so heavily marketed. And as a reminder, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to click the subscribe button below. And lastly, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below on I-bonds, and I will see you in the next video.